The drag you can't see. You're doing everything right. You've cleared your blocks. You've aligned your energy. You're taking action. You feel good about money. But somehow, your income is still moving slower than it should. It's like you're driving with the parking brake on. You're moving forward, but there's resistance slowing you down. You can't see it. You can't name it. But you can feel it, that invisible drag on your financial flow. This is quantum wealth friction, and it's one of the most overlooked reasons why aligned people still struggle to accelerate their income. You're not blocked. You're not misaligned. You're experiencing friction. And until you understand what's creating it, you'll keep working twice as hard for half the results. Let me explain what quantum wealth friction is and why it's different from the blocks you've been working on. A block is a complete stoppage, something preventing energy from moving at all. You've probably cleared those. You've done the inner work. You've shifted your mindset. Energy is moving. But friction is different. Friction allows movement, but it creates resistance that slows that movement down. It's the difference between a dam, block, and rough terrain, friction. Water flows through rough terrain, but slowly, laboriously. That's what's happening with your wealth. Quantum wealth friction shows up as micro-resistances, tiny points of internal conflict, doubt, or misalignment that you might not even notice consciously. Individually, each one is small. You could argue it's insignificant. But in quantum physics, small frictions compound exponentially. When you're trying to accelerate your income, these micro-resistances act like tiny brakes distributed throughout your system, each one slowing you down just a little. Together, they create significant drag on your financial flow. Here's what makes friction tricky. You feel aligned most of the time. You've done the work. You believe in your worthiness. You trust abundance. But somewhere in your system, maybe in a specific context, maybe around a specific number, maybe with a specific type of client, there's a micro-resistance creating friction. You're 95% aligned, but that 5% friction is slowing everything down. And because it's subtle, you don't address it. You keep pushing harder, wondering why you're not accelerating despite all your effort. Think of it this way. Imagine you're trying to run, but you're wearing clothes that are just slightly too tight. Not so tight that you can't move, but tight enough that every movement requires extra effort. You can run, but you're slower than you should be, and you get exhausted faster than you should. That's friction. You're not stopped, but you're not flowing freely either. And the exhaustion you feel isn't from the running, it's from constantly overcoming the resistance. Quantum wealth friction manifests in specific ways. Maybe you can receive money, but then you immediately spend it, creating friction that prevents accumulation. Maybe you can charge decent prices, but you over-deliver to the point of exhaustion, creating friction through energy drain. Maybe you attract opportunities, but you hesitate just long enough that they cool down, creating friction through timing misalignment. These aren't dramatic self-sabotages. They're subtle frictions that slow your momentum. The reason friction is so damaging is that it's invisible to most people. When you're completely blocked, you know something's wrong. You can't receive money at all, so you know you have work to do. But when you have friction, you're receiving some money, creating some success, so you think everything's fine. You don't realize that what's flowing at a trickle could be flowing as a river if you identified and eliminated the friction points. Another aspect of quantum friction is that it compounds with velocity. The faster you try to go, the more the friction matters. When you're moving slowly, small frictions don't impact you much. But when you're trying to accelerate your income rapidly, every point of friction becomes a significant drag. This is why some people can't seem to break through to their next level. They're trying to accelerate, but their friction increases proportionally, keeping them at the same speed despite increased effort. The quantum field responds to the overall coherence of your system. When you have friction, micro-resistances creating drag, your system is not fully coherent. Parts of you are flowing, but other parts are resisting. This creates energetic turbulence that the field mirrors back as inconsistent results, stop-start momentum, or income that flows and then stops unpredictably. Eliminating friction creates laminar flow, smooth, consistent, accelerating abundance. The anatomy of income resistance. To eliminate quantum wealth friction, you need to understand exactly what creates it. Friction doesn't come from major blocks, it comes from micro-resistances that are so subtle you might not consciously notice them. But your energy field notices them, and so does the quantum field. Here's what creates the invisible drag on your income. The first source of friction is microdoubts, tiny moments of questioning that you might dismiss as insignificant. Maybe you're about to send an invoice and you think, is this too much? For just a split second before sending it anyway. Maybe you're pricing a new offer and you feel a flicker of, will anyone actually pay this? Before proceeding. These microdoubts seem harmless because they don't stop you from taking action. But each one creates a tiny energetic resistance that slows the flow. You're moving forward with one foot on the gas and one foot lightly tapping the brake. Another friction source is conditional alignment. You're aligned in some contexts but not others. Maybe you feel abundant when money is flowing, but stressed when it slows down. Maybe you trust the universe in general, but doubt in your specific industry. Maybe you believe in your worthiness intellectually, but your body tenses when you state your prices. This conditional alignment creates friction because your energy isn't consistently coherent. You're sending mixed signals, aligned here, resistant there, which creates turbulence in your manifestation. Perfectionism is a major friction creator that most people don't recognize as such. You're taking action, so you think you're good. But if you're spending 3 hours perfecting something that needed 1 hour, that extra time is friction. If you're hesitating to launch until everything is flawless, that hesitation is friction. Perfectionism doesn't stop you completely, but it slows everything down. You're moving through molasses, technically moving, but with enormous resistance that drains your energy and momentum. Over-efforting creates friction through energetic density. When you're working really hard, pushing, forcing, you create resistance in the field. It's like trying to swim through water versus flow with it. The effort itself becomes friction because it's coming from a place of, I have to make this happen, rather than, I'm allowing this to happen. The quantum field responds to ease and alignment, not to force. When you force, you create drag that slows the very results you're working toward. Micro-resentments are another subtle friction source. Maybe you resent having to market yourself, but you do it anyway. Maybe you resent low-paying clients, but you accept them. Maybe you resent the time business tasks take, but you do them. These tiny resentments create energetic resistance. You're doing the actions, but with an undercurrent of resistance that slows the effectiveness of those actions. It's like trying to help someone you're angry at. You're doing it, but not fully, not cleanly, not powerfully. Unprocessed disappointments also create friction. Maybe a launch didn't go as well as you hoped, and you haven't fully processed that disappointment. Maybe a client didn't pay, and there's still a small energetic charge around it. Maybe you didn't hit a goal, and there's subtle shame still present. These unprocessed experiences create density in your field, not full blocks, but enough static to slow your flow. Each disappointment you haven't fully released is a friction point creating drag on your current momentum. Split focus is a powerful friction creator. When part of your attention is on building your wealth and part is on worry, doubt, or other concerns, you're creating internal conflict. It's like trying to drive while constantly checking your rearview mirror. You're moving forward, but not efficiently, not powerfully. The quantum field responds to focused attention and intention. Split focus creates friction because your energy is divided, which means it's not concentrated enough to create clear, powerful manifestation. Tolerance of misalignment also creates friction. Maybe you're working with a client who drains you, but you tolerate it for the money. Maybe you're in a business relationship that doesn't feel right, but you stay because it's easier than leaving. Every misaligned situation you tolerate creates friction. You're going through the motions, but your energy isn't fully behind it. This half-hearted engagement slows everything down because you're not bringing your full power to what you're doing. How quantum drag compounds over time. The insidious thing about quantum wealth friction is how it compounds over time, creating what I call quantum drag, a cumulative resistance that gets stronger the longer it persists. Understanding this compounding effect is crucial because it explains why people who've been working on their wealth for years can still feel stuck, even though they're more aligned than ever. The friction has been compounding silently in the background. Here's how quantum drag works. Every micro-resistance creates a small energetic disturbance in your field. One microdoubt, one moment of over-efforting, one tiny resentment. Individually, these don't seem significant. But in quantum systems, small disturbances don't stay small. They interact with other disturbances, creating interference patterns that amplify the overall resistance. It's like ripples in water. One pebble creates small ripples, but multiple pebbles create complex wave patterns that interfere with each other, creating turbulence. The longer friction persists, the more normalized it becomes in your system. Your nervous system adapts to operating with resistance. Your energy field adjusts to flowing through friction. What started as temporary drag becomes your baseline operating state. You forget what frictionless flow feels like because you've been operating with resistance for so long. This normalized friction becomes invisible. You don't feel it as resistance anymore, you just feel it as how things are, which makes it even harder to identify and eliminate. Quantum drag also creates what's called hysteresis, a lag effect where your current actions don't produce immediate results because you're still processing the accumulated friction from the past. You clear a friction point today, but the drag it created is still affecting your momentum. You align your energy in this moment, but the misalignment from previous moments is still creating wake turbulence. This lag is frustrating because you're doing everything right now, but you're still experiencing the consequences of old friction. The compounding nature of friction explains why some people hit a wall at a certain income level and can't break through no matter what they do. They've accumulated enough friction at that level that the drag matches their forward momentum. They're pushing hard enough to maintain their current level, but not hard enough to overcome the accumulated resistance and break through to the next level. Without identifying and eliminating the friction, they stay stuck in this equilibrium of effort and resistance. Friction also compounds through your belief system. When you experience friction-slowed results for long enough, you start to believe that's just how it is for you. Money comes slowly for me. I have to work really hard for every dollar. Success is a grind. These beliefs aren't technically blocks, they're accurate observations of your current experience. But they reinforce the friction by making it seem inevitable rather than changeable. The belief in the friction becomes additional friction. Another way quantum drag compounds is through decision fatigue. Every micro-resistance requires micro-decisions. Do I push through this doubt? Do I tolerate this misalignment? Do I keep over-efforting? Each decision, even unconscious ones, drains your energy slightly. Over time, the accumulated decision fatigue from managing all your friction points leaves you depleted. You're exhausted not from your work, but from constantly navigating internal resistance while trying to move forward. The compound effect also shows up in your results timeline. With significant friction, manifestations take longer to arrive. You send out an intention, but it has to move through all your friction points before it can manifest. Each point of resistance delays the manifestation slightly. So what could have manifested in weeks takes months. What could have taken months takes years. You're not blocked, things are coming, but the timeline is extended by the cumulative drag of all your friction points. Friction compounds in your relationships and collaborations too. When you're operating with internal resistance, other people feel it energetically. They might not trust you fully, not because you're untrustworthy, but because they sense the friction between what you're saying and what you're feeling. This creates friction in relationships, which creates friction in business, which creates friction in income. The internal friction radiates outward, affecting every aspect of your wealth creation. Identifying your personal friction points. Now let's talk about how to actually identify where friction exists in your system, because you can't eliminate what you can't see. Friction is subtle by nature. It hides in blind spots and normalized patterns. But there are specific ways to illuminate these invisible resistance points so you can address them directly. The first identification technique is energy mapping. Paying attention to where you feel resistance in your body or energy field when you think about or take specific wealth-related actions. Close your eyes and imagine sending an invoice for a high amount. Where do you feel tightness, contraction, or heaviness? That's a friction point. Imagine receiving a large payment. Where does your energy hesitate or brace? That's friction. Your body knows where the resistance lives, even when your mind doesn't. Another powerful technique is momentum tracking. Notice where your income flow accelerates easily and where it slows down despite your effort. Maybe attracting clients is easy but closing sales is slow, friction in receiving. Maybe making money is easy but keeping it is hard, friction in accumulation. Maybe you can charge high prices with some clients but not others, friction around specific contexts. The pattern of where things flow versus where they drag reveals exactly where your friction points are. Look for micro-hesitations in your actions. Before you state your price, is there a split-second pause? Before you invest in your business, is there a moment of doubt? Before you delegate a task, is there a reluctance? These micro-hesitations are friction signals. They're so brief you might dismiss them, but each one represents a point where your energy isn't flowing freely. Track these hesitations for a week and you'll have a map of your friction points. Examine your conditional statements around money. I trust abundance, but I'm aligned, however. I deserve wealth, except. Everything after the but, or however, or except, is friction. These qualifiers reveal where your alignment is conditional rather than absolute. Write out your money beliefs and look for all the conditions, exceptions, and qualifications. Each one is a friction point creating drag on your income. Notice what you tolerate that you don't actually want. What misaligned situations are you accepting? What clients drain you but you keep working with? What business tasks do you resent but keep doing? What prices feel too low but you keep charging? Everything you're tolerating that doesn't feel fully aligned is creating friction. Make a list of what you're tolerating and you'll see exactly where resistance lives in your wealth system. Pay attention to your recovery time from setbacks. When something doesn't go as planned financially, how long does it take you to return to full alignment? If you bounce back quickly, your system has low friction. If setbacks throw you off for days or weeks, there's accumulated friction that the setback activated. The longer your recovery time, the more friction you're carrying. Look at your energy expenditure versus results ratio. Are you working incredibly hard for modest results? That's a sign of high friction. You're burning energy overcoming resistance rather than creating output. If someone else in your field is getting better results with less visible effort, they likely have less friction. Your exhaustion relative to your results is a friction indicator. Examine your self-talk around wealth creation. Is it encouraging and trusting, or is it critical and doubting? Do you celebrate small wins or dismiss them? Do you trust your next steps or second-guess constantly? Your internal dialogue reveals your friction. Critical, doubting, dismissive self-talk is friction. It slows you down by creating internal resistance to your own forward movement. Another identification method is the substitution test. If someone else did your exact same actions but without your internal state, would they get better results? If yes, the difference is friction. Your actions are fine, but your internal resistance while doing those actions is creating drag. This helps you see that the problem isn't what you're doing, it's the friction in how you're doing it. Finally, notice where you feel you're pushing versus where you feel you're flowing. Pushing is friction, it's effort against resistance. Flowing is frictionless, it's aligned action moving with ease. Map your week and identify which activities feel like pushing and which feel like flowing. The pushing activities are where your friction lives, even if they're getting done. Eliminating friction for laminar wealth flow. Once you've identified your friction points, the work is systematically eliminating them to create what I call laminar wealth flow. Smooth, consistent, accelerating abundance with minimal resistance. This isn't about adding more techniques or trying harder. It's about removing the invisible drag so your existing efforts can produce exponentially better results. The first elimination strategy is micro-alignment corrections. For each friction point you've identified, make a micro correction that reduces the resistance. If you have friction around stating your prices, practice until the hesitation disappears. If you have friction with a specific client type, stop accepting them. If you have friction in a specific task, delegate it or change your approach. These aren't big dramatic shifts, they're small adjustments that reduce drag at specific points. Practice zero tolerance for what drains you. Every situation you tolerate that doesn't feel aligned creates friction. Start saying no to misaligned opportunities, even if they pay. Release clients who drain you, even if you worry about the income loss. Remove yourself from situations that require constant efforting. Each thing you stop tolerating is a friction point eliminated, which creates more flow in what remains. Implement what I call energetic hygiene practices, daily actions that clear accumulated friction before it compounds. This might be daily energy clearing, somatic release practices, or simple completion rituals where you consciously release the resistance from your day. The key is consistency. You're preventing friction from accumulating by clearing it daily rather than letting it compound over time. Work with your body to release somatic friction. Much of your resistance lives in your body as tension, bracing, or holding patterns. When you notice body tension around wealth actions, breathe into it, move it, release it. Shake out your body before financial conversations. Stretch before working on your business. Your body holds friction physically, and physical release creates energetic release. Replace perfectionism with iteration. Instead of spending hours perfecting something before releasing it, friction, create a good enough version and improve it based on real feedback, flow. This shift from perfection to iteration dramatically reduces friction because you're not constantly fighting against not good enough. You're moving forward, learning, and adjusting, which is frictionless compared to the resistance of trying to make everything perfect before proceeding. Cultivate decision clarity to reduce the friction of constant deliberation. When you know your values, your boundaries, and your priorities clearly, decisions become obvious and quick. The friction of endless deliberation disappears. Practice making decisions faster, not recklessly, but decisively. The confidence of clear decision-making is frictionless compared to the drag of uncertainty and second-guessing. Address your microdoubts directly rather than pushing through them. When you notice a microdoubt, is this too much? Or will this work? Pause and examine it. Usually, underneath the doubt is a belief or fear that can be addressed. Once addressed, the doubt disappears and the friction it created vanishes. Pushing through doubt creates friction. Resolving doubt eliminates friction. Create abundance momentum through small, consistent wins. Friction is hardest to overcome from a standstill. But once you have momentum, friction matters less. Focus on creating consistent small wins, small amounts of income, small aligned actions, small evidence of flow. As momentum builds, you'll find that many friction points that seemed significant become irrelevant because you're moving fast enough that they don't slow you down. Practice what I call preemptive alignment. Get yourself into aligned state before taking wealth actions rather than trying to align while acting. Before a sales call, take 5 minutes to ground, center, and align. Before working on your business, clear any residual friction from your day. By entering aligned before acting, you eliminate the friction of trying to align during action. Finally, celebrate friction elimination as much as you celebrate income increases. When you notice a friction point has disappeared, you no longer hesitate before stating your price, you no longer tolerate draining clients, you no longer over-effort, acknowledge it. You're rewiring your system to operate with less resistance, which means every action you take becomes exponentially more effective. Living with minimal quantum wealth friction means your income flows consistently, accelerates naturally, and responds quickly to your aligned actions. You're not working harder, you're working with less internal resistance. The parking brake is off. The drag is eliminated. And suddenly, the same effort that was producing modest results starts producing exponential ones because you've removed the invisible resistance that was slowing everything down. This is laminar wealth flow, and it's your natural state once friction is eliminated.